For years, I thought I was teaching self-defense. Not only did I learn the martial art of Aikido, my instructor was also teaching self-defense to nurses in a psychiatric hospital where I was regularly assisting him. He also taught his own program of women's self-defense where I was not only assisting him during seminars, but I also helped others become certified instructors in his system. When I started teaching Aikido as a professional instructor, many of my students came wanting to learn not only this beautiful martial art, but also how to defend themselves. After having been a part of so many self-defense seminars and being told that I've learned self-defense, I thought I knew the answers, even though deep inside I had doubts about them. I never told my students that I'm a self-defense expert, but every time they asked me self-defense related questions, I did my best to answer them. Over time though, I realized that I wasn't giving them well-informed, honest answers. Instead, I was basically quoting my instructor even at times when I wasn't sure about his provided answers myself. I was trying to make myself feel better by saying that I don't need to know all the answers. That today, in the West, we live in peaceful times and that being attacked is not a high probability. I would even sometimes ask my students to raise their hands to show who of them were ever in a life or death situation. Usually, everyone kept their hands down, which reassured me that I don't need to know all the answers. Yet one day, one student did raise his hand. That same student had a lot of questions about self-defense too, many of which I had no good answers to. I did my best to try to answer them, but all that was coming from my mouth were more quotes from my instructor. Even myself, I felt that these were not real answers. They were just cookie-cutter ideas that were used to answer most self-defense questions in more or less the same way. The experience made me stop and admit that I can no longer be satisfied with the knowledge that I was given. I started doing my own investigations online, trying to find the answers to the questions I'd been asked. The more I was digging, the more I understood just how much I didn't know. I learned that self-defense is not just about being grabbed or punched at and then doing a response move, more or less what I was taught previously. I learned that the majority of self-defense is situational awareness, avoiding potential danger in the smartest ways. Not just in a lip service way, the way I was taught previously, where I was told to be aware of my surroundings and to avoid danger, but I was not given any specific information on how to do that. Meanwhile, real self-defense does. It teaches you how to understand predatory behavior, how to read body language, how to properly hold your distance, and so many more other things. Yet I also learned that I was not the only one thinking that self-defense is all about being grabbed and kicking someone in the nuts. The more I looked for answers about self-defense, the more I saw cases of other misguided instructors just like myself. Dozens upon dozens of videos giving lip service and teaching complicated moves, many of which I learned would not work under a stressful situation impacted by adrenaline. Yet here I was lost again. There was so much conflicting information. I asked myself, how do I find the best answers? How do I know which ones of them are true? One of my life philosophies is that if you want to learn something, always do your best to learn from the best. Thus, I decided to find the best possible self-defense program out there. I found a handful of choices, but I eventually landed with Tony Blauer's Spear. The system seemed to have it all. A lot of its material was based on prevention and simple, principle-based movements that can be applied in stressful, violent situations. I reached out to Tony directly to ask if there are any instructor courses happening soon. Tony was kind enough to answer and told me that luckily there was one due to run in a couple of months in Edinburgh, Scotland. Without any hesitation, I bought the flight tickets, ordered the cheapest hostel, and soon enough, I was there. Little did I know that the course was not only going to enlighten me, but that my visit to Scotland will also feature a real-life stress test of my newly acquired self-defense skills. When I arrived to the first day of the course, I was exhilarated. With every minute of listening to my instructors, I felt I was gaining nuggets of gold. So much information that I was missing about self-defense was presented to me in moments. I learned how to use creative solutions and distractions to de-escalate dangerous situations, how to use my own body language in a conflictual situation, and how to set myself up in order to best defend against surprise attacks. The physical part was great as well. At the beginning of the course, we were paired up with other experienced participants who were geared up in full body armor. These participants were instructed to imitate a scenario of a verbal conflict with us and during any moment to strike us. Our instruction was to use a martial arts technique to defend against them when the moment comes. The result was we all failed, as we learned a direct lesson that complicated movements may easily let us down in unpredictable situations. By the end of the first day, I felt a new man, and soon enough, my new knowledge was about to be tested. Before we get to the final part of the story, I want to introduce you to the sponsor of this video. The sports letter is something that every sports fan should check out. It sifts through the noise to deliver the need-to-know sports news with efficiency and entertainment. The sports letter delivers headlines and highlights to your inbox every morning at 7 a.m. ET, which takes less than 5 minutes per day to read. It also features completely free contests, opportunities to win tickets, gear, and more. If you are a sports fan, join more than 100,000 subscribers who start their day with sports. Never miss a highlight again and become a sports expert in just a few minutes each morning. Now, let's get back to the story. As I left the first day of the course to go back to my hostel, it was already dark. I was seemingly in the middle of nowhere, looking for my bus stop. As I eventually found one, there was a group of young hoodlums causing a ruckus next to it. In my past, during such moments, I felt extremely uncomfortable. I was unsure of what to do, and that doubt would lead me to freezing up. But this time, I knew so much more of what I could and should do in this situation. As I approached the bus station, I stayed aware and kept my distance. I made sure to show no doubt or hesitation in order not to appear as an easy target, nor was I showing any signs of aggression to provoke them. I also kept my hands up so that if I were to be attacked, my body would be ready to respond. And then, a last bit of brilliance happened, directly inspired by the course I was just a part of. As I was standing in the bus stop, the aggressive group members were shouting at bus drivers and hitting their buses. Then one of the group members came closer to me. I stepped towards him and in a friendly and confident voice said to him, "Hey, do you know which bus takes you to the city center?" The guy suddenly changed completely. From an aggressive demeanor and loud voice, he relaxed and started speaking to me in a friendly way as well. He told me that he wasn't sure about the bus, but then took a moment to look through the info presented on the bus stop while his friends were continuing to harass the passing buses. He eventually found out which bus I needed to take and told me all the necessary information. I thanked him, he wished me a good evening as he ran off with his whole group to pursue one of the buses further. Without having participated in the spear course, I doubt if I would have handled the same situation so well. After the course ended, I came back to my dojo where I continued to teach Aikido. But now I was clear that by teaching Aikido techniques, I was not teaching self-defense. And I told that to my students directly. Yet if they had serious questions about self-defense, now I was much better equipped to answer them. If you're interested to learn how I experienced no-touch martial arts and what I realized because of it, click on this video right here. Thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you to own your journey.